Alright everyone, we start off today talking about the honkening, of course, the crisis, if you can call it that, up in Ottawa, continuing, I believe spreading to several other parts of Canada. It's also beginning to spread into the US and elsewhere. Actually, here in the Netherlands, I think there were some truckers, some of which had Canadian flags, actually sort of taking up the same mantle for change. With regards to lockdownerism, we can't elaborate further because this is a main video, so it goes on YouTube. A good segue, of course, into the fact that if you're watching there will be a pinned comment down below. Keep in mind, I make exclusive video every single day. It goes on the sites that are linked there. It doesn't go on to YouTube. Mostly it's algorithmic. In all honesty, it's not even so much about the abuse and censorship that YouTube delves out to users. It's really more about their algorithms. That's a form of abuse on its own that you can't escape unless you're part of the priority club. And if you have to ask if you're in the priority club, you probably aren't in it. The honkening is hilarious to me. First, for the mimetic purpose. I mean, the idea of honk clown world stuff, that's now dated. That meme is from some time ago, but now it's been completely reinvigorated. That's just the superficial layer, though. As a little bit of a meme lord myself, as a little bit of an edgy kid of my era, the better part, I think, is the hypocrisy that I see. For example, the reaction from some people in Ottawa itself. Well, I can't sleep. There's honking going on night and day. What am I supposed to do? Because, you know, some truckers are honking 5 blocks away. They're mainly not in residential areas. They're in the commercial center of Ottawa and probably in outlying box store areas right off the highway. I can vaguely hear them in the distance. My children are crying. My 4-year-old asked me a deep philosophical question the other day. Mama, if all of these people keep honking, won't that distract the birds and they'll fall into the ocean? And, you know, cringy shit like that. And anyway, would you say that if it were BLM Marchers? If this were a group of trucks that had Black Lives Matter flags, would you be complaining? I dare say that you wouldn't. Number one, you'd support them. You'd tell the government in Ottawa to back off. You'd tell the Canadian government to take a knee. That's first. Secondly, you wouldn't dare complain because you'd get called bigoted. But nobody cares if the truckers are honking because they simply oppose mandates. This isn't even about disease at this point. This is about a government-sponsored reaction to a disease. It's completely secondary, arguably, and in some cases tertiary. And the hypocrisy is exquisite. The hypocrisy is insane. If this happens in DC, I expect the same thing to occur, which is that people who would not say anything negative, they might not be for it, but they wouldn't dare to say anything negative online in the sense of on an account that they could be traced on, like on Twitter or something where they've got their real name there. They have a big problem with it. Oh my God, I couldn't go to the mall. It was deafening. I couldn't go out and be a consumer. I couldn't go out and be normal. Here's the main hypocrisy. Here's the biggest overarching superlative layer of hypocrisy here. I'm not able to go about my normal business because of the fucking truckers, which are from within your country. They're your compatriots. That's what the truckers are protesting for, you asshole. That's the whole point. They're not allowed to go about their normal business, or at least feel that they're not able to, because of what Trudeau's idiot government is doing. This isn't about the WHO made a recommendation. They want to ignore it. They hate grandma and they want to die of a disease. That's not what this is about. This is about a superlative policy, which is completely political, that isn't even supported at this point by most mainline medical institutions. Universities, research universities, Johns Hopkins just coming out, Oxford, etc., with studies with regards to elements of pandemic response. It doesn't tie in with that. It's not about the WHO. The WHO's head has expressed skepticism about some of the methods that are being used in Canada and elsewhere at this point. Again, we can't give specifics because of YouTube's policies. Mainly, you should be watching me on other sites if you want the truth about these things. You're not allowed to tell the truth anymore in an era of lies because of tyranny. We can't even go into that aspect. I've had videos downed over the last month simply for questioning YouTube's terms of service. Hey YouTube, your TOS are perfectly fine. Letting priority creators, literally in some cases, say the N-word while other people get banned is perfectly fine too. There's no double standard here. You're doing just great. But the honkening is the most funny thing I think that I've seen, at least since Let's Go Brandon. Arguably, it's funnier. This is a democratic movement in which a bunch of working and middle-class individuals, truckers, they typically do not make massive amounts of money. What are they shipping around? Priceless treasures. Indiana Jones is their subcontractor. These are normal people. They have to drive around. They're in an isolated cabin most of the time anyway, so they're, I would think, lowered risk of transmitting a disease if they're not interacting with other people other than through their fucking CB radio. And they're getting told that they have to do certain things that are against their principles for one reason or another. In order to keep working. That's number one. They're facing increased delays. Number two, because if they're going across a border, they're not just asked for, hey, show your expanded driver's license, your passport or whatever. They're asked for a bunch of other things. These things take time to get. Oh, you need a negative COVID test to go across this state line. Well, that takes time out of their schedule. They're on the road for 16 hours at a time, usually, sometimes more. They're a trucker. And by the way, they're responsible for the food that gets to you. A lot of people that are complaining, I get this feeling. They think that the food magically appears in the grocery aisle, so the farmer doesn't matter because there's no one needed to grow it. Water is originated magically in a hose, and vegetables magically grow in cans. This is what they believe. It got to their store by magic. It didn't involve a trucker or a pilot or anything like that. And the same people that are looking down on now 50,000 plus truckers or whatever it is, it's at least in the multiple tens of thousands range. Their argument that initially it was only a few hundred people obviously is bunk. We've got plenty of video proving that. They look down on these people while pretending that their own politics are pro-working class. We care about the common man. From their ivory towers and their McMansions, of course, they say, I care about the working class. But it's almost a form of express NIMBYism. I care about the working class until they're protesting in my neighborhood. I care about the truckers that are doing all this hard work. I can't even change a fucking tire on my Prius. I care really a great deal about them. I care about the farmers that grew the food that they're shipping, but not in my backyard. It smells like poo, all of those vegetables they're growing. The truck smells like oil, and they keep honking. How am I supposed to take my kids to school if there's honking noises? I fucking live in the real inner city instead of some pussy-ass city like Ottawa. Why don't you go to Detroit and live in the ghetto there? And then tell me about the honking. Tell me about the noise and all the problems that you fucking have in your life. It's bullshit. It's NIMBYism by a bunch of spoiled morons, number one. It's stupid, number two, on a policy level. What they should be doing, instead of having a judge saying, well, honking your horn is now, I'm issuing, apparently this is real. When I saw it, I thought it was a 4chan meme. There's a judge there that said, yes, I'm putting a ban on honking your horn for the next 10 days until we hear more info. It's compelling enough. I've heard enough already. Did you hear honking outside your home? Well, you're a judge. Probably you're a little bit beyond the beltway. Probably you didn't hear any honking, except when you commuted to work. Then there's the problem. They don't want the inconvenience. I want freedom. I want a liberal society, but I don't want the inconvenience attended to it. I want democracy, but I don't want those people to be able to rise up. I don't want those people to be marching. BLM, that's fine. No, I'm not racist. No, it's fine. But those truckers, it's a bunch of white dudes with oil stains on their trousers. Fuck them. They're rednecks. They're inbred. They chaw tobacco and they I don't know what Canadians drink, probably Budweiser too. They drink Budweiser all day and they're a threat to society. It's an insurrection, says that goofball from the Trudeau regime. The one that you're not allowed to remark on because that's bigoted too. Apparently they've got the market cornered when it comes to these things. It's bullshit. You've got that. You've got the Ottawa police going in and giving people fines. The military won't act. The tow truckers are largely refusing to act. I saw a thread earlier. I didn't have time to check it because, of course, the last couple of days have been hectic as fuck for me. But saying that some commie group was helping fundraise to hire some outside group to tow trucks. There are ways around this. There are plenty of logistic steps that you can take to prevent that truck from being easily towed. Have you ever heard of a boot? I'm just putting it out there. I'm not going to elaborate further again because this is a mainline video. Oh, the steps you can take. I saw some people saying that people were being ticketed or harassed for bringing gas to the truckers, diesel fuel or whatever. And then they said, well, if you have a couple of empty cans in your car, the police will be busy checking them. So again, how is this even enforceable? One judge in Ottawa says you can't honk your horns. Well, I mean, if 10,000 people are doing that all across the city and not just the truckers, it's going to be kind of difficult to process them all. So what do? At the 11th hour, they say it's an insurrection. Oh, that term again. It's not an insurrection. Bullshit. It's an attempt to make positive change, actual positive change, not burning Wendy's. And here's the other double standard. If this group were throwing rocks and Molotovs and burning Wendy's, you'd pretend it was about racial justice or something like that. And not only would they not be condemned, they would be condoned by the Canadian government. Trudeau would be out there with his tribal gear. He'd be out there like goddamn Pelosi and all those others. By the way, remember, she couldn't even get off the floor after she was kneeling. They'd be out there with like Malawian headscarves, taking the knee, and sometimes getting back up, and saying, we feel your pain. You know, the plight of your struggle is really something that we need to discuss. You'd go home, by the way, probably after that happens, after a little bit, another couple nights of minor looting, and then nothing would change, but you'd feel better because the government had addressed it and said that your complaints were valid. Nobody's validating these complaints. I would think if the truckers were out there in Ottawa, here's the other final layer of hypocrisy, and their beef was about how much money they got, the hours that they worked, diversity in the workplace. Well, trucking is 95% male, and it's a sausage fest. We got a problem. Trudeau wouldn't have fled. He would be there. He'd meet with them. He'd have them up on stage. He'd probably parade their leaders up on stage, the ones he'd bought out beforehand, of course, very carefully, and say, well, I understand your plight. Yes, indeed, trucking is too male. Trucking is too white. Trucking is, it takes a lot of time, and you're not really getting a huge amount of wages for it because you're on the road at 14 hours at a time, sometimes more. Canada's got a lot of long, empty stretches of road, and would listen to it, or at least pretend. They would make believe that they gave a shit about the truckers. If an ununionized trucking company in the United States tries to unionize, Bernie Sanders is all aboard with them. With this, he has nothing to say about it. It's rather magical now, isn't it? That's about all. Peace out.